The story of America is in many ways the story of its people, individuals from all walks of life who transformed their circumstances through sheer willpower, perseverance, and a belief in the possibility of something better. Nowhere is this more evident than in the tales of self-made Americans, men and women who rose from humble beginnings, overcame adversity, and reshaped their destinies. These stories are not just motivational anecdotes. They are living testaments to the power of personal effort, grit, and opportunity in a land defined by its commitment to liberty and self-determination. The concept of the self-made American has long been celebrated in literature, media, and culture. From the rags to riches tales of Horatio Alger to the success stories of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, this idea remains deeply woven into the national identity. It is an ideal that suggests no matter where you come from, be it poverty, prejudice, or powerlessness, you can succeed through hard work, innovation, and resilience. In today's America, where issues of inequality, systemic barriers, and social mobility are hotly debated, it is important to revisit and reflect on the lives of those who overcame immense challenges to achieve greatness. These individuals not only forged their own paths, but also left legacies that continue to inspire generations. This story delves into the lives of historical pioneers, Depression-era icons, civil rights leaders, tech innovators, and contemporary change-makers who have earned the title self-made. Their paths were rarely smooth, their journeys seldom easy. But in their persistence lies a powerful message that determination, no matter how modest the start, can spark extraordinary change. The early architects of the self-made ideal. The seeds of the self-made American were planted early in the nation's history. One of the most celebrated figures to embody this spirit was Benjamin Franklin. Born in 1706 to a working-class family in Boston, Franklin had little formal education. Yet his insatiable curiosity and discipline led him to become a writer, printer, inventor, scientist, diplomat, and one of the founding fathers of the United States. His Poor Richard's Almanac offered not just wit and weather predictions, but life advice rooted in self-improvement. Franklin's autobiography became a blueprint for self-made success, advocating values like industry, frugality, and continuous learning. Another monumental figure was Frederick Douglass, whose rise from slavery to statesmanship is among the most compelling stories of self-empowerment in American history. Born into bondage in Maryland in 1818, Douglass defied every odd to escape slavery, educate himself, and become a world-renowned orator, writer, and abolitionist. His 1845 autobiography stunned readers with its clarity and courage. Douglass proved that even the most brutal beginnings could not quash the human spirit. His ability to communicate powerful ideas about liberty and justice elevated him to a national icon, and his legacy endures in movements for freedom worldwide. Andrew Carnegie, a Scottish immigrant, arrived in the US in 1848 with his impoverished family. As a teenager, he worked long hours in Pittsburgh factories and railroads. With extraordinary ambition and shrewd investment skills, he eventually built Carnegie Steel, which he later sold to J.P. Morgan to form U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation. Carnegie believed that the wealthy had a moral obligation to give back. In his essay, The Gospel of Wealth, he urged the rich to invest in the common good, and he lived by those words, funding over 2,500 libraries and dozens of schools and universities. These men lived in different eras and faced vastly different challenges. Yet they each demonstrated a belief in the American ideal, that anyone, regardless of background, could shape their future. Their stories became touchstones for the generations to follow. Overcoming crisis, the Great Depression, and the rise of American grit. The Great Depression of the 1930s was a dark period for the United States, marked by economic collapse, mass unemployment, and widespread despair. Yet, in the midst of this hardship, the country produced numerous examples of self-made resilience. One such story is that of Walt Disney, whose journey into animation and storytelling reshaped global entertainment. Born in 1901 in Chicago, Disney faced financial instability throughout his early life. His first animation studio went bankrupt, and he struggled to keep his next venture afloat. But with unwavering vision, he created Mickey Mouse in 1928 and then went on to develop Disneyland, one of the most beloved cultural landmarks in the world. Disney's legacy isn't just cartoons, it's the belief that imagination, even in the face of adversity, can build new worlds. During the same period, Madam C.J. Walker emerged as a trailblazer for black women entrepreneurs. Born Sarah Breedlove in 1867 to formerly enslaved parents, she worked as a laundress before inventing a line of hair care products specifically for African American women. She became America's first self-made female millionaire. But more than her wealth, it was her impact that mattered. She created jobs for thousands of women, mentored businesswomen, and contributed generously to civil rights causes. Henry Ford, though slightly earlier than the Depression, is another case study in industrial success. Starting as a farm boy with a fascination for mechanics, Ford developed the Model T and pioneered the assembly line. His innovations made cars affordable for middle-class Americans and revolutionized manufacturing. Ford's rise from mechanic to mogul illustrates how industrial vision, backed by relentless improvement, could change not only personal fortunes but the fabric of society. These Depression-era icons faced immense obstacles, but they leaned on creativity, resilience, and faith in the future. They didn't wait for miracles, they built them. Breaking barriers in the Civil Rights era. The Civil Rights era was not just about collective progress, but also about individual triumphs against entrenched societal barriers. Many self-made Americans of this period broke not only personal boundaries, but institutional ones, paving the way for others. Perhaps no story is as widely admired as that of Oprah Winfrey. Born in 1954 in rural Mississippi to a teenage single mother, Oprah experienced poverty, trauma, and racial discrimination from a young age. Despite those hardships, she found refuge in education and performance. Her career began in local news and eventually led to her iconic talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, which ran for 25 years and transformed her into a global media empire. Oprah is not just a success story. She is a movement unto herself, an embodiment of empathy, empowerment, and entrepreneurial brilliance. Maya Angelou too overcame profound adversity to become one of America's most celebrated poets and public intellectuals. Silenced as a child due to trauma, she regained her voice and used it to inspire millions. Her works, particularly I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, gave voice to African American women and expanded the scope of American literature. Angelou was also a dancer, actress, and speaker, proof that talent, when coupled with purpose, can transcend boundaries. Cesar Chavez used his voice to fight for the voiceless. The son of migrant farm workers, Chavez co-founded the United Farm Workers Union, organizing laborers for fair pay and safe working conditions. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance echoed that of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Though he never sought wealth or fame, Chavez's life demonstrates another dimension of self-made success, changing the world for others. These individuals did not merely rise to personal greatness, they redefined what was possible for entire communities. The tech boom and digital self-made giants. The rise of the internet and digital technologies in the late 20th and early 21st centuries created a new frontier for self-made Americans. These individuals didn't inherit vast fortunes or rely on traditional industries. Instead, they harnessed innovation, risk-taking, and digital platforms to create transformative businesses and technologies. One of the most iconic examples is Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple Inc. Born in 1955 and adopted by a working-class family in California, Jobs dropped out of college after just one semester. He started Apple in his garage with Steve Wozniak in 1976, revolutionizing personal computing with the Apple II, Macintosh, iPod, iPhone, and more. Jobs' story is one of relentless pursuit of perfection, vision-driven leadership, and the ability to see what others couldn't. His innovations didn't just change technology, they changed how we live, work, and communicate. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, also represents the modern self-made mogul. After working in finance, Bezos started Amazon as an online bookstore in 1994 from his garage in Seattle. Over the next 2 decades, he transformed it into one of the largest companies in the world, encompassing retail, cloud computing, entertainment, and logistics. His willingness to take long-term risks and focus on customer obsession made Amazon a household name. Bezos has since expanded into space exploration with Blue Origin, showing how far vision and persistence can go. The internet also democratized success in new ways. Marcus Brownlee, a YouTube creator, started making tech review videos in high school. With passion, consistency, and clarity, he built one of the most influential tech channels on the internet. Brownlee's rise reflects a broader shift, where self-made success isn't limited to boardrooms, but can happen in bedrooms and basements with a camera and a dream. Likewise, influencers like Emma Chamberlain started posting quirky videos in their teens and turned authenticity into a brand empire. With no formal business training or industry connections, they mastered digital tools and built global followings, showing that personality and creativity are now legitimate currencies in the modern age. Together, these stories reflect a new era of opportunity, where digital platforms allow anyone with an idea and drive to reach millions. Women and minorities, redefining success. In the past few decades, the notion of the self-made American has expanded to include a broader range of voices. Women, immigrants, and people of color, long marginalized, are now some of the most powerful examples of self-made success in the U.S. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, revolutionized women's fashion and proved that innovation doesn't always come from elite circles. With $5,000 in savings and no business background, she invented a slimming undergarment that led to a billion-dollar empire. Her authenticity and refusal to give up in the face of rejection made her a role model for aspiring women entrepreneurs. Blakely has since joined the Giving Pledge and continues to mentor other female founders. Indra Nooyi, born in India, broke gender and cultural barriers to become the CEO of PepsiCo. Under her leadership, the company not only grew profits, but also emphasized sustainability and health-conscious products. Nooyi's story reflects how immigrants can rise in corporate America through integrity, intelligence, and cultural adaptability. Damon John, a black entrepreneur from Queens, started sewing hats in his home and turned it into FUBU, a fashion brand that spoke directly to urban youth. His success on Shark Tank made him a mentor and investor in hundreds of small businesses, many from underserved communities. His journey shows that street smarts, when combined with strategy and hustle, can build global brands. Ava DuVernay, originally a publicist, taught herself filmmaking and rose to become one of Hollywood's most influential directors. Her work on Selma, When They See Us, and 13th elevated Black voices and reshaped conversations about justice and identity. DuVernay used her platform to hire, promote, and support other underrepresented creators. Viola Davis, born into poverty in South Carolina, overcame childhood trauma and systemic racism to become an Oscar, Emmy, and Tony award-winning actress. Her production company and advocacy for equity in entertainment reflect a commitment not just to success, but to transformation. These self-made women and minorities represent more than individual achievement. They symbolize the ongoing expansion of opportunity in America. Their stories are redefining who gets to dream and who gets to lead. Giving back. the final chapter of self-made success. What distinguishes many of America's most revered self-made figures is not just their rise, but how they use their platform to help others rise too. In fact, giving back is often the most enduring part of their legacy. Andrew Carnegie set the standard. Despite once being the richest man in the world, he spent his later years giving away over $350 million, equivalent to billions today. His funds built libraries, schools, universities, and peace institutions. Carnegie believed that the rich should act as trustees for society. Oprah Winfrey has donated hundreds of millions to education, women's health, and youth leadership programs. Her Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa and extensive scholarship work reflect a belief in empowering the next generation. Oprah is also known for elevating the voices of others, turning her platform into a force for global change. Mackenzie Scott, ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, has redefined modern philanthropy. In recent years, she has donated over $16 billion to thousands of small, grassroots organizations, especially those focused on racial justice, education, and equity. What sets her apart is her speed and humility, often giving with no strings attached. LeBron James, a basketball superstar, uses his fame to empower. His I Promise initiative in Akron, Ohio, provides education, mentorship, and support for at-risk youth. LeBron's impact transcends sports. He has become a symbol of social responsibility and community leadership. Chance the Rapper from Chicago has used his music revenue to fund public schools, mental health services, and arts programs in underserved neighborhoods. Without signing to a major label, Chance maintained ownership of his work and used it to uplift his community. These individuals understand that true self-made success isn't only about wealth or fame, it's about legacy. They turn their stories into staircases for others to climb. Lessons and reflections. Across centuries and sectors, the stories of self-made Americans offer timeless lessons. They remind us that success doesn't follow a single script, and that greatness often grows from adversity. Here are some common threads that run through their journeys. 1. Education matters in any form. While not all attended prestigious schools, every self-made figure valued learning. Frederick Douglass taught himself to read. Oprah Winfrey read books voraciously as a child. Steve Jobs audited college courses even after dropping out. Learning, formal or informal, is the bridge between who we are and who we can become. 2. Failure is part of the process. Walt Disney went bankrupt. Oprah was fired. Each failure was a turning point, not a dead end. Resilience isn't just an asset, it's essential. 3. Purpose fuels progress. The most compelling self-made stories are about more than money. They are driven by missions, whether it's empowering women, Walker, expanding knowledge, Carnegie, or transforming technology, Jobs. 4. Identity doesn't limit potential. Race, gender, nationality, or poverty may shape one's journey, but they don't define it. Self-made success proves that limitations can be overcome, not ignored, but faced and dismantled. 5. Giving back is the ultimate victory. Whether through charity, mentorship, or advocacy, the self-made American often finishes their journey by reaching back. Their power lies not only in what they've earned, but in what they've shared. As America continues to evolve, with new challenges and new opportunities, the idea of being self-made remains powerful. Today, the tools of success are more accessible than ever. The internet, digital education, and social networks provide platforms for creativity, connection, and commerce. Yet, the heart of every story is still the same: belief. Belief in oneself, belief in possibility, belief that the past does not dictate the future. The enduring legacy of self-made Americans. The stories of self-made Americans are not simply narratives of individual achievement. They are reflections of the nation's very soul. These are tales of resilience, vision, and tireless effort. They illuminate what is possible when human potential meets opportunity, when courage meets uncertainty, and when the will to rise is stronger than the weight of circumstances. As we consider the legacies of those who built their success from the ground up, we begin to understand something profound. Being self-made in America is not just a personal triumph. It is a cultural cornerstone, a social mirror, and a national aspiration. The myth and the reality. Much has been written about the American dream, the belief that anyone, regardless of their starting point, can achieve success through hard work. The idea of the self-made American sits at the heart of this dream. But in modern times, some critics argue that the self-made narrative is idealized, if not exaggerated. After all, they say no one is truly self-made. Every individual is born into a set of circumstances: family, location, social class, access to education, that shape their journey. This criticism holds some truth. It is indeed important to recognize systemic barriers, inequality, and inherited privilege. Yet, what the stories of self-made Americans reveal is not that everyone has the same starting line, but that greatness can emerge from the most unlikely places. The son of a janitor can become a world leader. A girl born in a shack can build a media empire. A refugee can launch a billion-dollar company. The power of the self-made narrative lies not in denying the role of society, but in celebrating the power of the individual to respond to their circumstances with creativity, determination, and courage. It reminds us that what we do with what we have often matters more than what we start with. Diversity of pathways. One of the most compelling aspects of the self-made American is the sheer variety of their backgrounds, industries, and identities. There is no single path to success, and that's what makes these stories so inspiring. We have seen titans of industry like Andrew Carnegie, who started as a bobbin boy and became one of the richest men in history. We've followed the journey of Madam C.J. Walker, who rose from laundry work to become the first female self-made millionaire. We've watched Steve Jobs build a company from a garage that changed the world, and heard Oprah Winfrey transform trauma into triumph through authenticity and brilliance. These individuals didn't follow blueprints, they created them. Their stories stretch across centuries and sectors, from politics to entertainment, from technology to social activism. They are proof that self-made success is not about fitting a mold, but about breaking it. Resilience in the face of adversity. Central to every self-made story is resilience. This is not simply the ability to endure, but the capacity to adapt, evolve, and grow in the face of setbacks. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. Disney's early ventures failed. Angela was once silenced by trauma. Yet in each case, these individuals came back stronger, more focused, and more determined. Their resilience teaches us that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of the process. It is how we respond to failure that defines us. This message is especially vital in a time when instant gratification and viral fame often overshadow the quiet, long grind of real achievement. Resilience also means believing in something bigger than your current reality. For many self-made Americans, that belief was their anchor. They saw something that didn't yet exist and worked to bring it into being. Be it a new company, a new social movement, or a new version of themselves. Innovation and the power of vision. Another recurring theme is innovation. Self-made Americans are not just doers, they are thinkers and creators. They look at the world and ask, how can it be better? What's missing? What's broken? And then they act. Steve Jobs didn't invent the computer or the phone, but he reimagined both. Walt Disney didn't invent animation, but he transformed it into a global experience. Innovation doesn't always mean technology. It can be in the way Sarah Blakely rethought women's fashion, or how Maya Angelou redefined what black womanhood could look like in literature, or how LeBron James reimagined what it means to be an athlete, businessman, and philanthropist all at once. What unites these innovations is a deep sense of purpose. Self-made Americans innovate not just for profit, but for progress. Their visions are rooted in meaning. They want to improve lives, inspire people, and leave something behind. Giving back, success that multiplies. The most enduring self-made legacies are those that don't end with the individual. One of the most powerful aspects of these stories is how often they lead to philanthropy, mentorship, and systemic change. The self-made American does not hoard success, they spread it. Andrew Carnegie's libraries, Oprah's schools, LeBron's community programs, Mackenzie Scott's sweeping donations. These are examples of success used not just to elevate oneself, but to uplift others. They illustrate that wealth and fame are not the highest forms of success. Impact is. Even those without great financial power often find ways to give back. Mentoring, creating jobs, advocating for policy change, telling their story to inspire others. These are all forms of generosity that ripple through society. This ethic of giving back completes the self-made cycle. It ensures that opportunity is not a one-time gift, but a renewable source of hope. Relevance in the modern era. In today's rapidly changing world, the idea of the self-made American is more relevant and more complex than ever. Technological advances have made it easier for people to launch businesses, build audiences, and access knowledge. At the same time, economic inequality, systemic racism, and educational disparities continue to create real obstacles. But therein lies the evolving challenge, to redefine what being self-made means in an interconnected, digitally driven, socially aware world. Today's self-made individuals may not fit the old mold. They may be YouTubers, coders, climate activists, or educators. They may measure success not in dollars, but in impact, influence, or social change. The modern self-made American is more likely to come from a marginalized background, to be purpose-driven, and to think globally. They are activists, innovators, and cultural architects, and their stories are as vital as ever in shaping how we see ourselves and what we believe is possible. The real meaning of being self-made. Ultimately, being self-made in America is not about going it alone. It's about owning your journey. It's about pushing through barriers, internal and external, and committing to growth. It's about standing up when no one else believes in you, about trying again after failure, and about building something that didn't exist before you imagined it. The self-made American is not always rich or famous. Sometimes they are teachers who start community programs, immigrants who open corner stores, veterans who become entrepreneurs, or students who create non-profits. What unites them is a belief in progress and a refusal to let the past define the future. A national identity built on possibility. The stories we tell about success matter. They shape our values, fuel our dreams, and guide our actions. The self-made American has become a symbol of what is best about the country. Not perfection, but possibility. Not privilege, but perseverance. This narrative, when told honestly and inclusively, can be a force for unity and empowerment. It reminds us that success is not reserved for a few, but is within reach of the many. It challenges us to dream bigger, try harder, and reach further, not just for ourselves, but for the world we live in. As we look to the future, may we continue to lift up these stories, not to worship them, but to learn from them, to be inspired by their determination, moved by their generosity, and motivated by their belief that one person really can make a difference. Let us teach our children not just about the rich and famous, but about the dreamers, doers, and givers who built their lives brick by brick. Let us remind them that being self-made is not about wealth, it is about worth, about becoming someone who not only rises, but who raises others with them. Because in the end, the true story of America is not just one of dreams pursued, but of dreams shared. And that is a legacy worth continuing.